नमस्कार। रसोई के रहस्य के फेस्टिवल्स ऑफ इंडिया में आप सबका एक बार फिर से स्वागत है। बहुत गर्मी पड़ रही है और इस गर्मी में भी we know that the Muslim community around the globe is fasting for Ramadan. They're almost at the end of Ramadan actually, and drawing closer every day to celebrating the biggest festival, Eid ul-Fitr.
रसोई के रहस्य आओ मिलकर खोले हम रसोई के रहस्य आओ मिलकर खोले हम
My guest today is different because she's going to share with us information about a community that has fascinated me for a very long time. As a lot of us are aware, Islam has various sects in which each community celebrates and observes things differently. I'm talking here about the Bohras. Yes, the Bohra community. And I know for a fact that there are many things about them that are very unique and very different. So I'm not going to say anything more about this, but invite my guest, who is a good friend, who is a professor, who teaches political science, who has many passions she pursues, among which one of the favorite activities is cooking. That's where we found each other. And that's our common ground, our love for food, our love for experimenting with food. So let me introduce you to my guest, Alefiya Tundawalla, who is going to lead us through the Bohra celebration of Eid. Hi Alefiya, welcome back to Rasoi ke Rahasya.
Thank you so much, Payalji, for having me on this program. It's a great feeling, and it's always a pleasure to be associated with Rasoi Ke Rahasya in my own little capacity. And before we venture any further, I would like to take the opportunity to congratulate you for the wonderful work that you've been doing. It's so unique and so unprecedented. And especially this new season on Festivals of India, definitely you are creating a rich pool of information for all of us. But I would say that this is not just the dissemination of some dry data that one could easily gather from any internet source. There is so much more meaning and so much more depth to every conversation that you pick up. So thank you so much for the effort that you're putting in, and everybody in general and the blind community in particular, we would remain indebted to you for this hard work. Thank you so much once again for having me here.
Thanks so much, Alefiya, for the appreciation. It always helps, and I know it's been wonderful work for the blind community and everyone as a group. It's been so exciting. In every conversation, like I keep telling people, it's not about the festivals, it's about the people I meet. It's about my own love for information, my own love for detail. I think that's what makes this so much nicer for me, and in turn,
Yes.
I think for people who I speak with. So we're talking about the Bohras. And to many of us, the Bohras are just a community. I mean, it's just something that you hear from people. Many of us know a little bit more, but I won't speculate. So tell us more about who are the Bohras, what are they about, and how are they different?
Yeah, actually, the Holy Prophet himself, during his lifetime, he had predicted, and there is a prophetic hadith to this extent, that after his death, the Islamic community or the Ummah would splinter into 72 subsects. Okay, so that was prophecy. And immediately after the death of the Prophet, we know about this larger split in the community which took place between the two sects, the Sunni sect and the Shia sect. And the split is between three major Shiite subsects, which is the Isne Asharis, who are also known as the Twelvers. Then you have the Zaydis and the Ismailis. The Ismailis further splitting up into the Mustali sect and the Nizari sect. And among the Mustalis, then you have the Bohras, the Khojas, the Memons. So Bohras, actually, they are a Mustali, Ismaili, Shiite subsect of Islam.
Wow, okay.
So they have their origins in beginning from Iraq, Syria to Egypt and Yemen. And then after a particular point in time, the seat of the Dawat shifted to India. It first came to Sidhpur, which is my birthplace, Sidhpur in Gujarat.
Mhm.
And then it was for a short interval, it was also there in Ujjain and Jamnagar, places like Surat, Ahmedabad, and finally it is presently the seat of Dawat of the Bohra community is from Mumbai.
Is it a very large community across the globe?
It's not a very large community, but very closely knit and very disciplined and regimented, and there's a lot of centralization and
So what is different now? As we know, we'll come to Eid because we're going to be talking to you about how the Bohras celebrate Eid and why is it different with the others.
Yeah.
It's about time for Ramzan to get over. But I also know from you that since you're talking about centralization, I know that you have a community kitchen, you have a common kitchen, and there are various such basic social observances that happen. Could you share with us a few of those?
Community is centrally controlled, and there are various institutions put in place to keep the community together. So a lot of effort is made on the part of the Dai to kind of solidify and crystallize the group ethos and keep it alive.
Right.
So, for example, you have this community kitchen where everybody from the community contributes according to his or her capacity. And then everybody in the community gets the same food.
Right.
So that is one way of, and then you also have the institution of Qarzan Hasana, which is interest-free loan, which is given to us from the mosque. So because Islam actually prohibits giving and taking of interest. So this is where once again the community is contributing, and they have a pool created, and then people who are in need can take loan without interest.
It's basically keeping, like you said, the community together. And what else happens is there anything else? Like you said, I remember you say that you get food from the kitchen 5 days a week or something like that. And during festivals and things also, everyone usually gathers there. So let's come down to Eid. I know that the Eid celebrated by the Bohras is very different from the other communities. I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm going to let you walk us through basically what the celebration is about, how it's different. And of course, I want to know some of your personal memories of this.
Definitely. Yeah. So Eid al-Fitr, as we all know, marks the culmination of the holy month of Ramzan, Shahr Ramazanul Muazzam, which is the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. And as you said in the beginning, it's a month of fasting and abstinence throughout the day for Muslims across the globe, regardless of sectarian and denominational differences. It's a very special month for me as well, a very beautiful month, and the blessed month also, because in this month, the Holy Quran was first revealed to Prophet Muhammad on the night of Qadr, Shab-e Qadr or Laylatul Qadr. And it's a month of, lots of prayers and supplication and doing lots of good deeds and repentance and seeking blessings and forgiveness. It's actually, a month is divided into 3 asharas, which we in Gujarati call daskas, 10 days each. So the first 10 days are dedicated to seeking Allah's rahmat. It comes from the word rahm, which means seeking divine mercy or pity or compassion. The next 10 days are dedicated to seeking maghfirat, which is forgiveness of our sins. And the last 10 days are for seeking itkun minan nar, which is freedom or emancipation from the fires of hell, some kind of salvation. So the whole idea is like Ramzan also comes with the message of patience and forbearance and discipline and restraint. It's a time for a reflection and introspection, contemplation, self-scrutiny, self-criticism. So I personally feel that the whole idea of Eid ul-Fitr is not just to kind of, celebrate the achievement of a feat that, one has fasted for 30 days at a stretch and now we need to celebrate. It's not just that. I think it's beginning afresh, the beginning of a new life, because the whole message of Ramzan is so relevant, and especially in this age, in the late capitalist consumer society and culture. We are all lured by the glitter of materialism and commodity fetishism and crass hedonism. And we're all, most of the time, we're running after certain false needs, like Herbert Marcuse's one-dimensional man. So we're all leading superficial lives. It's very depthless. So Ramzan, I think, is a time for reflection when you're actually expected to kind of feel yourself one with your own self and with the Creator. So there's a connect that you have to feel. You need to reconnect with your own self and reconnect with the Creator. So some kind of a spiritual cleansing which takes place, and the whole idea is also self-improvement and spiritual upliftment. So at the end of Ramzan, then you are ready to begin afresh on a clean slate. The whole idea of Eid, I think, is centered around this message. Another point that I would like to mention here is that the focus is also on doing silat, which means reviving or renewing or resuscitating relationships. So, if cracks appear in relationships in course of time, this is the time when you make amends for those misgivings. So, gifts are exchanged throughout Ramzan and also on Eid. So the idea of exchanging gifts, which are called hadiyas, especially in the Bohra community, this is given a lot of importance. So I don't like it becoming it has become very reciprocatory and very commercialized these days. So वो जो gift of Magi में वो Jim Mandela की जो spirit थी gift giving की, that is not there, that is missing. But then the whole idea behind this gift giving is so symbolic. We are not just seeking forgiveness of our sins from Allah, but we are also seeking forgiveness from each other for any wrong that we might have said or done.
Right.
So ये जो message है, ये भी एक message है. We are actually following Ramzan and Eid as these are supposed to be.
It's just so important. Like you said, the most important thing is connecting with your own self and with your
feeling
Creator.
one with. Yeah. Another point which comes to my mind the moment I think about Eid is I'm reminded of Munshi Premchand's famous short story Eidgah, which has a very powerful and a very poignant depiction of what Eid is for the poorest of the poor, people who are living in absolute abject poverty. For them, the Eid moon comes with a different message. For them, it comes with a message of deprivation and denial. Now, these are the people who do not even have the bare minimum to survive, who do not have sevai to eat on Eid, or do not have new clothes to wear. जिनके लिए मिराज फैजाबादी ने कहा है कि कल अगर ईद का दिन है तो क्या पहनेंगे? चांद से कह दो अभी तैयार नहीं है हम लोग. So I'm reminded of I mean at our own individual level, we are all doing whatever we possibly can, because there is a lot of talk about, everybody knows about zakat, which is the obligatory payment of, tax, which is 1/40th of our savings and whatever we own. So that is obligatory on every Muslim. That we do. We do sadaqah, and we also do muasat, which is a lot of charity and all that. So that is something that we do in our own individual capacity, just to feel good and a little less guilty. हमारे पास है, उनके पास नहीं है, थोड़ा सा दे दिया, so you feel a little less guilty. But I really wish, and I might sound utopian when I'm saying this, I really wish the whole system and the societal structure and our own establishment, the Bohra establishment, was a bit more equitable in the true sense of the term. So, because throughout Ramzan and on every occasion, हम जो दुआ मांगते हैं, one of the predominant prayer is, ए अल्लाह तेरे दर के सिवा और किसी के दर का मोहताज मत करना मुझे. So that cannot happen unless the society and the system and the state and everything is inherently equitable.
That's true.
एक को किसी के पास अगर मांगना पड़ता है या किसी की मदद लेनी पड़ती है तो automatically हम मोहताज हो जाते हैं. So I think, the system has to be more made that way. So that revolution has to come in.
One can always hope. I think कम से कम कुछ लोग भी अगर सोचें, so it's a matter of change, and the change has to come. Whether we don't know, it's
someday
probably
maybe
already begun. I mean, the very fact that people like you and many more like you are even thinking about it, which means that there's something that's been set into motion in the universe that it's happening. So we will all hope and pray that एक दिन वो आएगा कि किसी के साथ मोहताजी नहीं रहेगी, and everybody is going to be in whatever utopian space we would like to see the world in. So now let's say it's time for Eid, and what happens in your home, in the Tundawala home for Eid?
Yeah, so I'll just do a little bit of flashback and go back to my childhood days. We used to live in a huge mansion, British zamane ka mansion tha, jisme we had a flat, and because it was so big and so spacious, we had offered this flat for congregational prayers. So हमारे घर पर जमात से नमाज होती थी throughout Ramzan and of course on Eid as well. Wow. So that was a matter of pride, not just for my father but for the entire family. And I remember उन दिनों like really used to enjoy. हमारे घर पे वो mic रखा रहता था, and so it was not just our house, it was our house as well as our neighbor's house. So दो घरों को मिलाकर होती थी नमाज. So the mic was in our house and the loudspeaker in theirs. And we were then kids, so used to love playing. I used to especially kind of speak out in the mic and listen to my voice and कैसी लगती है अजान and कैसा लगता है ये सब कुछ, and उनके घर पे वो सुनाई देता था, and then they would say kids are going to kind of खराब हो जाएगा सब कुछ, and just stop them from doing all this. So that used to be a lot of fun. But nowadays, that has now we've shifted our residence, and अब इतना community centers पे नमाज थोड़ा कम होता है. So we congregate in the mosque, which is a very large space. And for a person like me with a visual disability, I do feel very spatially disoriented and very lost at times. Right. So वो मुझे बहुत याद आता है, keep missing that. That is one point. Then उन दिनों और जो हुआ करता था कि like for the Bohras, we have this misak ceremony. Referred about it to you earlier as well. It's some kind of a formal initiation into the community fold. Yes. Yeah, so where the oath of allegiance is administered, and you and then once the misak is done, it's obligatory for both men and women. Once the misak is done, every Islamic tenet becomes mandatory. Right. Before that, whatever you do, it's your own volition. Okay. So we had, myself and both my siblings, both my brothers, we had started fasting for all 30 days from a very young age. So when we were around 5 or 6 years old. So उन दिनों क्या हुआ करता था कि जो बच्चे जिनका मिसाक नहीं हुआ है, they used to be acknowledged and appreciated, and we used to get a small token of appreciation. That could be just a small box of gems or a small game to play with, and that would be so precious and so invaluable for all of us. Yeah. This practice has now stopped. So that is something I really miss about Eid. Then we also had this family, सबके घरों में होता था Eid cards का जो culture है वो. And I was so particular because my paternal uncle, he used to sell Eid cards. So that was his business. He used to go from house to house selling Eid cards. And I would kind of, wait for him very anxiously, because he would first come to me with all his bundle of cards, and then I was very particular about the message on each card. Okay. And so I would, if I was not happy with a particular message, I would write my own message, and then we would take all the cards to the letterbox along with my neighbors. I used to go along with my neighbors and then post them, and then wait anxiously and eagerly for receiving cards from the other end. And I would collect the cards, and that had become some kind of a hobby for me. But nowadays we see that, and this is true for every other festival, that there is a flurry of WhatsApp forward.
Yes. There are memes. Everything has a message. Everything is a meme.
I have, made it a point that unless I receive a typed message which is specifically meant for me, I do not reply back. It's just every other person sending a forward which has absolutely no meaning to it. So I miss that culture of Eid card as well. Then another thing is that, when we were kids, our involvement in the community, our participation in community affairs, that was more spontaneous, I feel. there was more freedom, a little bit more space for us to explore our own creative genius. But nowadays everything has become so standardized, and there's so much of emphasis on uniformization and homogenization that it's good in a way that it's unifying and fraternizing, fine. But then at point in time it becomes very bland and very boring. So very repetitive. So all children reciting the Holy Quran and nothing else to eat. So that becomes very boring. So our own way of celebrating Eid, own little contribution to the festival, what we can do and how we can make it special for ourselves, that is something which I find missing.
So what is it that happens? I know that the Bohras celebrate Eid after 30 days or the 30th. Is it the 30th day itself, or what is it?
No. It's after 30 days. It's right. The completion of the month of Ramzan and the first day of the 10th month of the Islamic calendar, the Hijri calendar, which is called the month of Shawwal. That is celebrated as Eid. So for the Bohras, we do not wait for the sighting of the moon. The calendar is lunar.
Right.
So this is a Fatimid era calendar that we are following, and it's fixed. So it doesn't change with changing times. It's fixed. So 10 saal baad Eid kaun se din aayegi, we can say abhi se.
Right.
So that does not change. That is one thing which is unique about the Bohra denomination. Another thing is that for the Bohras, and this is true for the other Shia sects as well, that everything has two aspects to it, the Zahir and the Batin. The Zahir is the exoteric and the Batin is the esoteric meaning. So for us, for the Bohras, this Eid that we are celebrating, that is just the apparent, the exoteric Eid. And the real Eid for every Bohra is to see the face of the Dai Zaman. Unka didar karna, that is real or hakiki. So this is what makes Eid different for us. मतलब अगर उनका दीदार हो जाए, एक मौका मिल जाए, तो वो ईद सच में ईद बन जाती है. That is one thing which is different. Another thing is that for the Bohras and for every other Shia as well, any observance or any celebration or any occasion when we meet is incomplete without commemorating what had transpired on the battlefield of Karbala. So Eid ke din bhi, we are told this story in which, when Imam Hassan and Hussein, they were very young, they come to Prophet Muhammad and they say that, the people of Medina are all wearing new clothes. It was the day of Eid and they are all wearing new clothes, colorful clothes, beautiful clothes, but we do not have anything to wear. So the Prophet is... he begins to worry, and then Angel Jibreel appears with 2 sets of white clothes from heaven for the 2 kids. But they are still not very happy because, they want colorful clothes. So then the angel asks the Prophet to get him a tub of water, and he says, don't you worry, I'll see to it that, these clothes get colored in the color of the choice of these 2 kids. So then Hassan chooses green and Hussein chooses red, and the angel begins to cry because he is reminded of what would happen to these 2 kids in future, because Imam Hassan would be poisoned and his body would turn green, and Imam Hussein would be slaughtered in the battle of Karbala, and the blood oozing out of his wounds, that would be red in color. So ये story narrate की जाती है, and then so there is mourning and lamentation and reciting of Marsiya, which is elegy kind of commemorating the tragedy of Karbala. So this is a very essential part of Eid as well. So कोई भी खुशी का occasion is incomplete without this lamentation aspect.
Commemorating the fact that this happened and that's why we're here today.
Yeah. So like ये जो कहावत है that every place is Karbala and every day is Ashura. The Bohras have taken this very seriously. और सच में उनके लिए हर दिन Ashura की जैसे होता है. So every gathering, and you have to mourn the death of Imam Hussein. So it has become a part of the Bohra faith. Very integral part. So ये भी एक
इसके साथ में अभी और मतलब और distinctive क्या होता है आप लोग के पास में? जैसे ईद let's say कि सबके पास तैयारियां होती हैं, तो आप लोगों के घर में what is the preparation that happens for Eid?
Yeah, so the preparation begins एक week पहले से ही. So you start cleaning the house, और जो सब लोग करते हैं. You start cleaning the house, you get new clothes stitched, and keep everything ready. अब Eid के दिन we get up early in the morning, in the middle of the night actually, जैसे हम लोग सहरी के लिए उठते हैं throughout Ramzan. That same time, and before the सहरी time is over, we are to eat whatever we want, if at all we want to eat, and brush our teeth and get ready for a mini fast, which would be broken after the Fajr ki namaz, which is the daily morning prayer, and before we begin the Eid prayer. So we do that, and then we get ready to go to the mosque. We put on the traditional Bohra attire. If you have any idea about the traditional Bohra attire, it is kurta, saya and izar, which is a 3-piece dress for men. It's mainly white, or it could be off-white or cream or any other color. And then you have the traditional Bohra topi, which is hand-woven, with cotton thread. Right. It's usually white and it has a golden border. And some people even wear fully golden topi as well. But these are women of the community who weave these topis, and they earn their livelihood from it. So ये उनका dress होता है. And the Bohra women, they wear the rida, which is a kind of a hijab, or it's also a 2-piece dress, but it's not black. It could be every other color but black. And it has very pretty embroidery and, lace work and panel work. And nowadays you also have these digitally printed ridas. And
yes, keeping with the times.
So
yes.
people in the community, उनका सारा जितना भी creativity है वो उस पर evident हो जाता है rida पे. So we put on the traditional Bohra attire, and then if people have gold, it's a must. If they do not, then it's fine. So wo hai, and then you go to the mosque again early in the morning. We have the Eid prayer. Ab jo ek hoti hai Eid ki namaz, that we do. Then you also have the khutbah. Here again, what is different between the Bohras and the larger Muslim community is that the Bohras believe the right to lead the khutbah. That belongs only to the imam. And this imam, because he is in seclusion, he is in occultation, वो जब तक पर्दे में से ज़ुहूर उनका नहीं होता है, he is not leading. There's nobody to lead the khutbah. So what we offer is a prayer which is instead of the khutbah. So we say Evazal khutbatain. That is, this is something that we are offering instead of the khutbah, and the day on which the imam will reveal himself, we will offer the real prayer.
Right.
लेकिन the other Muslim community, they say we are going for khutbah. ईदगाह में हम लोग जाते हैं khutbah के लिए. So for them, any imam can lead the khutbah. For us, the imam has to be the progeny of Ali and Fatima.
There's a certain rigidity there, and the belief that it has to be coming from there.
Yes, it has to be coming from there.
And then you have women going to the mosque as well, right?
Yes,
that's also
we have
distinctive.
Women going to the mosque. There is segregation, of course, and the women are always behind the men. It's only the men who would lead the prayers, but at least this basic minimum that, we are allowed to go to the mosque and be a part of it, be a part of the observance, and we can praying behind the imam, whoever is leading the prayer, that we can do. So once the Fajr prayer is over, and before we begin the Eid ki namaz, we break that mini fast with the traditional dried date preparation, stuffed dried dates. So
these are, that was very interesting. मैं पढ़ रही थी recipe आपने जो share करी थी मैं पढ़ रही थी. That was very interesting.
It's called KHARAK in Gujarati. So everybody waits for that KHARAK. It's really exotic, So ये एक tradition है कि normally during Ramzan when we break the fast, we break it with khake shifa, which is Karbala ki mitti.
Right.
And also of course dates, but we for the Shia the khake shifa is very important.
Right.
So we break the fast with Karbala ki mitti or khake shifa. But on this Eid ke din, we break the fast, this mini fast with the traditional KHARAK.
So are these available? Are these made in every home? Ye jo suke
we are served these dates in the community center, or people who are going to the mosque, they get it there. But we also make them in our homes for guests who would be visiting us latter part of the day.
So I was reading that when you said that it's you soak the dates and they're stuffed with a few things, and
we soak the dates in water and milk and rose water, So the more you minimum, they are to be soaked for a minimum of 12 hours. But the more you soak them, the more tender these would be to the bite. And then you stuff them with stuffing made out of, a fine powder of mixed dried fruits. It could be almonds and pistachios and cashews and hazelnuts and whatever you can lay your hands on. Mixed with khoya or mawa, a little bit of desiccated coconut, some powdered sugar, and condensed milk. And then again, rose water is used to give it a binding. And then you stuff the dates with this. So
teher jata hai. It when you stuff it, does it become like a
yes.
solid stuffing?
Yes, definitely.
It holds.
Yes. It holds. Yeah.
So बस उसको stuff करके and into the soaked dates, de-seeded dates, and इसको stuffing डालकर, and that's that.
That's it, yes.
Very nice. It sounds very, very interesting. In any case, I'm going to be sharing the recipe of this as you've given me with our readers, because it's with our listeners. It's really, really interesting. And then, the prayer is done. The fast is broken. Uske aage.
Yeah. And then we have the community meal. So this is the breakfast, a very lavish breakfast that we have at the community center, which is called Markaz. All people who are going to the mosque, they have it at the mosque. So ये एक lavish breakfast होता है, which is served in the traditional Bohra style, the Bohra Thaal. So we'd
like to know a little about. इसके बारे में हमको जरूर थोड़ा बहुत बताइए. I'm going to be sharing a link of your article also that you wrote for the Himal South Asian. About the travails of this practice for people with disabilities. But as a practice, for most people, it's supposed to be a bonding. So,
yes, definitely,
a little bit about that would be nice.
Yeah, so some kind of a tablecloth, is placed on the floor. It's called the safra in Gujarati. And for the elderly in the community, like separate seating arrangements are made. So the safra is then placed on the table.
Right.
But for people who can sit on the floor, it's placed on the floor. Then you have a stand. It could be made of aluminium or steel or whatever, but it's a kind of stand on which the thal would hold.
Right.
So this stand is called the Tarana or kundli. Some people call it kundli as well. And then on the Tarana is placed a very huge thal made of steel or aluminium, a huge platter. Around which 8 people sit down to eat. And there's definite posture in which they are expected to sit. So they cannot sit with, legs crossed or stretched out. So that would be showing disrespect towards food. So the posture is prescribed and you have to sit in that posture. And then the meal begins and ends with salt, a pinch of salt. And the Bohra belief is that, more than 72 diseases are cured if you do this. You begin with salt and you end with salt. And then it used to be a 5-course meal, but now it has, for health reasons, it has been brought down to a 3-course meal. So you begin with a Bohra meal always begins with a dessert, which is called mithas in Gujarati.
Right.
So, and then followed by say something savory, which is the kharas, and then you have the main course. So for the Eid breakfast, we begin with the sheer khurma. And then you have bread and butter, egg burji, keema, mutton keema, the staple that, every Bohra Thaal would have. And then people depending on where you are, which place you're located in. For example, for us, it's dal puri. Kolkata ka mashhoor hai dal puri and jalebi.
Right.
So, वो जरूर होता है. For people who are living in South India, they would have idlis and dosas as well.
Right.
So, इस तरह से. And then, all this would be included, would go into the kharas part of it.
Right.
And then for the main course you have, which everybody looks forward to, of course I don't, which is mutton paya along with tandoori roti. That's the breakfast. And then we come back home and then we're all unto ourselves to do whatever we want. So it's mainly visiting friends and relatives and waiting in anticipation for people to come in and give you Eid.
The most important thing, yes, Eid.
Especially the kids, as if it's their own earning.
There has to be some anticipation of something. And, since it's Eid, it's absolutely your own. Iska koi aur kuch nahi kar sakta. You are independent to do what you choose with it. And that's such a wonderful feeling. So what do people, I've seen people go meeting other people and things like that. And Is there an order to it, like people go बड़ों से मिलने जाते हैं या relatives से मिलने जाते हैं? On the Eid wala day, all of them basically stay within their own homes.
No, we do. The women folk stay back. Most of the women folk, they stay back, but the men in the family, they usually visit pehle din, and especially during the day. It's the men who move around, and the women who wait back, and then they kind of receive guests. But in the evenings and on the second and third day, even everybody, it becomes a family get together if you have a family. So when you have guests coming to your house, पहले जो serve करते हैं in a Bohra household, हम लोग जो serve करते हैं, it's a very small and beautiful decorative plate. You have something meetha, some maybe gems or कोई chocolate या कुछ इस तरह का. It's called the shakar. And then you offer sheer khurma or any sharbat or juice or something for people who do not want to have, who've had enough of sheer khurma.
Yes, I know, from home to home. Yes, everywhere. Correct.
तो उनके लिए फिर शरबत होता है या कोई जूस या कुछ भी. Traditionally, my mother has also been preparing the Gujarati, the Bohra style chana bateta. That is always there on our Eid menu. And then after everything is over, we have this specially prepared mukwas, which is made at home with all kinds of nuts and seeds. उनको roast करके घर पे बनाया जाता है. The menu is very simple. It's not, very lavish, just one or two items. But this is it.
So chana bateta, ये जो आप बता रहे हो, we've spoken about it and it sounds like a very, very interesting recipe. Just walk us through that recipe in brief.
Yeah, actually, there are various ways of doing it, and every household has its own recipe. So some people make it as a one pot kind of a thing, so it's more a khatti methi sabzi. But my mother does it a different way, and it tastes more like a chaat. You soak the kala chana, which is Bengal gram, for 8 to 10 hours, and then boil them with salt and water. First on high flame for one whistle, and then simmer it for 20-25 minutes. But it has to be boiled very well. अगर कच्चा रह गया तो फिर वो नहीं अच्छा रहेगा.
वो तो बात.
So shortcut नहीं कोई लेना है सोडा डाल के या ऐसा कुछ. But you have to boil them properly, and then boil potatoes separately, peel them and cut them into quarters. And then there is this masala that we keep ready, which is prepared by mixing coriander seeds, fennel seeds, and cumin seeds in equal quantities, and a little bit of black pepper to it. And we dry roast these spices and then grind them into a coarse paste. Right. So this is kept in store all the time. So when we're making the chana bateta, it's very simple. Just heating a little bit of oil in a pan, adding chopped curry leaves to it, and then this spice preparation that I mentioned, along with some more dry spices like red chili powder and turmeric and coriander powder, zira powder, salt. You mix it with 2 or 3 tablespoons of water, because otherwise the spices get burnt. Yeah, jal jayega. So after adding curry leaves to the oil, you add these masalas, and quickly add in a little bit of mint leaves, a few mint leaves chopped, and then quickly add in the potatoes, the boiled potatoes, and mix them very gently so that the masalas coat the potatoes well. And then add the chana. Right. And then let it simmer for some time, and then switch off the flame and add lemon juice to it. So the chana bateta is ready, and then the chutney is prepared separately, where again you heat oil in a pan, add a little bit of besan and saute it, and then you add some cumin seeds, some red chili powder, and you have to do it very quickly so that nothing should burn. Yes. And then you keep your tamarind water along with jaggery ready, so you quickly pour it into it, and then let the chutney simmer till it becomes very thick. And reaches the desired consistency. So when you serve the chana bateta, it's first the chana bateta goes into the bowl. Then you pour hot chutney over it, and then garnish it with finely chopped onions, coriander leaves, green chilies, and some papris and save and whatever you wish.
Very, very interesting. And that's what it breaks the monotony of having to eat, having to have sheer khurma everywhere or meetha kha ke.
Yeah. Kitna koi khayega.
Yeah. So it just, and this whole, the chaat angle to it just adds a new dimension to the entire thing.
Usually we do not have a holiday. Bohra Eid ke din it's not a holiday. So I prefer not to, wait back and take a leave. I would rather spend some time with my friends and colleagues in college. तो मैं फिर उनके लिए कुछ बना कर लेकर जाती हूँ, and I really have a fun time with them.
Yes. But वो फिर then are you able to finish with the entire celebration at the mosque with the prayers and things like that? वो करके
we are back home. Everything is over in the mosque for. It takes around 2 to 3 hours, and it's just a matter of 2 to 3 hours. We're back home by around 8. So after that, we are free to do whatever we want.
Oh, that's it. It begins that early in the morning, is it?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So that's actually a very good thing. Ki subah, you've taken care of the ibadat, and then now the rest of the day is yours to do what you choose to do with it. Yeah. Wonderful. So what is it that I remember that you have the anjeer ka kheer also? I'm being greedy and I'm asking for all your recipes because मुझे पता है
this is my it's my personal favorite. It's the anjeer, and once again the CHHUARA comes in. So anjeer or dry dates का जो halwa है, that is something which I personally, anjeer का taste मुझे बहुत पसंद है. So I make it on Eid. I made it this time as well. So for this, you have to soak both dried figs and dried dates for 12 to 14 hours in milk, and then blend them using the same milk. You have to blend them into a fine paste, and then cook this paste along with more milk for say almost an hour or so. And when the milk begins to dry out, you add mawa to it and cook it further. And then, when the halwa-like consistency is almost reached, you add ghee, and then you cook on high flame. फिर छींटे उड़ने लगेंगे, so you have to be very careful. And जब ये छींटे उड़ने बंद हो जाएंगे, you know that your halwa is well done almost. And then you give it a rest for 5 to 6 hours and recook it. That's very essential. Wow. Recook it with some more ghee. Of course, a little bit of butter also, and if you're not using butter, then you add a pinch of salt, because वो मीठे को फिर balance करता है. And to this recipe, you don't have to add sugar at all, because both figs and
yes are very sweet. Correct. And
sweet.
Then
so the natural sweetness is just enough.
Yeah, I can well imagine that. But this is amazing. Total iska cooking time must be really high.
Yeah, initially it takes around 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and then when you recook it, another half an hour.
Wonderful. हमारी ईद तो मन गई आपके साथ में, हमने भी मना ली हमारी आपकी ईद. And this has been absolutely fascinating. You've already shared the recipes with me, which I'm going to be sharing with our listeners. And it's been actually very interesting. I'm going to, in a later conversation about regional cuisine, I'm going to be wanting to talk about Bohra cuisine and food and how different it is. So we'll be back with you for this.
Yeah, it would be a pleasure.
Yes, it'll be very different and really nice. So in the meantime, I think we'll leave you with a wish for everyone, and बहुत ही अच्छी और मुबारक ईद हो आप सबकी. And
thank you so much.
I hope everybody has a wonderful and a peaceful and joyous time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us here, Alefiya, and we'll be speaking with you sometime soon again. ये रसोई के रहस्य का एपिसोड आपने सुना, बहुत ही अलग था. हमने ईद मनाई बोहरा कम्युनिटी के साथ. So हमसे जुड़े रहिए और सुनते रहिए, इंतजार कीजिए to see what the next episode is all about. तब तक के लिए नमस्कार.